Welcome to Soul Stories, where every story touches hearts, inspires minds, and leaves a message that stays with you forever. Real emotions, real lessons, real stories. This is Soul Stories. The cafe was warm, crowded, and loud with the constant hiss of espresso machines and the low murmur of conversation. The scent of roasted coffee beans and fried food hung thick in the air, making Mara's empty stomach twist painfully. She sat at a small table near the window, her shoulders drawn inward as if trying to take up as little space as possible. In her palm, she counted the coins for the third time: 2 quarters, 3 dimes, a few pennies. Still not enough. It was never enough. Across from her, her 6-year-old son Leo swung his legs beneath the chair, trying to act patient. His eyes, however, betrayed him. They were locked on the golden pile of fries at the next table, glistening under the cafe lights. Every few seconds, his small fingers twitched as if reaching for them in the air. "It's okay, Mama," he whispered, though his voice cracked with forced bravery. Mara swallowed hard. "I know, sweetheart, we'll share what we have." What they had was a single cup of soup and 1 piece of dry toast. At the neighboring table sat a man in a simple gray suit. Nothing flashy, no gold watch, no designer shoes. He scrolled through his phone absently, barely touching the burger and fries in front of him. The plate was full, too full. Every untouched fry felt like an insult to the hunger clawing at her chest. Mara tried not to look. Pride battled with desperation inside her. She had never begged before, not like this. She had always found a way: extra shifts, skipped meals, smiles she didn't feel. But today, the landlord's warning echoed in her head, and Leo's thin wrists told her the truth she didn't want to face. She stood before fear could pull her back down into her chair. Each step toward the man felt heavier than the last. Her heart pounded so loudly she was sure he could hear it. Her throat tightened, and for a moment the words refused to come. "Excuse me, sir," she finally said, her voice barely louder than the espresso machine. Can we share your fries?" The man looked up, surprised, his brows knitting together in confusion. For one long second, the entire cafe seemed to fall silent. Leo froze in his seat, staring at the floor, cheeks flushed with shame. Mara braced herself for rejection, for anger, for embarrassment. Then the man smiled. Not a polite, awkward smile, but a warm one. "You can have the whole plate," he said gently, sliding the fries toward her. "And I think you both look like you could use a little more than that." Mara's breath caught in her chest. For the first time that day, hope tasted warmer than hunger. Mara tried to refuse at first. Her pride rose instinctively, her hands lifting in protest. "No, that's too much, you've already been kind," she said, her voice trembling, but the soft growl of Leo's stomach betrayed her. The boy hesitated only a second before reaching for a fry with shy gratitude. Once he tasted it, restraint vanished. He ate like he hadn't seen food in days, because he hadn't. The man watched quietly, his expression unreadable at first. Then, without a word, he stood and went to the counter. A minute later, he returned with another full basket of fries, then 2 milkshakes, chocolate and vanilla, and finally another meal, setting it gently on the table. "Just in case," he said with a slight shrug. Tears burned in Mara's eyes, but she blinked them back. Leo's face lit up as if the room itself had brightened. For a moment, the weight on her chest loosened enough for her to breathe. They ate in silence at first, the kind that isn't awkward but careful. Then, slowly, the man spoke. "I'm Daniel," he said, "and you don't owe me an explanation, but if you'd like to talk, I'll listen." Mara hesitated. She wasn't used to being heard without judgment. Still, something in his calm eyes made her feel safe. "My husband died 2 years ago," she said quietly. "Car accident. Overnight, everything changed." Her fingers tightened around her milkshake. "Rent's late again. I work 2 jobs, cleaning offices at night and stocking shelves in the morning, but it's still not enough." She forced a smile toward Leo. "He pretends not to notice when I skip meals." Daniel didn't interrupt. He didn't look at his phone. He didn't offer quick solutions. He simply listened, really listened. And that somehow hurt most of all. "I travel for work," he finally offered when she fell silent. "I see a lot of people, but I don't always see their stories." Mara nodded, unsure of what to say to that. Leo finished his milkshake with a loud slurp and grinned. For the first time all day, he looked like a normal child again instead of a hungry one. When it was time for Daniel to leave, he stood, picked up his jacket, and paused. Mara thanked him over and over, the words tumbling out too fast, too emotional. He only smiled. As Leo reached for the last few fries, Daniel quietly slipped a folded receipt under the base of Leo's milkshake. "Just in case," he said gently. Then he walked out the door, disappearing into the busy street as if he had only been a passing moment in their day. Mara didn't notice the paper right away. But destiny had already been left behind on their table. The cafe had nearly emptied by the time Mara noticed the folded paper beneath Leo's milkshake. The table was sticky with spilled sugar and crumbs of fries lay scattered like tiny golden feathers. Leo was humming softly to himself, content for the first time in days. Mara reached out to clean the table, meaning to throw the paper away without looking. But something made her pause. She unfolded it. At first, the numbers didn't make sense. Her tired eyes scanned the page again and again as if the ink might rearrange itself into something more reasonable. Her breath caught in her throat. It wasn't a receipt. It was a bank check. Her knees buckled and she dropped into the chair, gripping the paper with shaking hands. $50,000. The number felt unreal, like it belonged to someone else's life. Her mind raced in panic. Had there been some mistake? Was it a joke? A cruel misunderstanding? "Mama," Leo asked, sensing the sudden change in her. She pulled him close, hugging him so tightly he squeaked. Tears poured freely now, splashing onto the check. "It's okay, baby," she whispered. I just need a moment." That night, she barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the numbers again. 50,000, enough to clear the rent, enough to breathe again, enough to believe in tomorrow. Fear wrestled with hope until dawn crept through the thin curtains of their apartment. The next morning, as Mara prepared for another long shift, the news played quietly on the old television in the corner. She wasn't really listening until a familiar face appeared on the screen. Her heart skipped. There he was. The man from the cafe, the gray suit, the kind eyes. The headline flashed beneath his image. Tech billionaire and philanthropist Daniel Harlow announces new housing initiative for single parents. Mara's legs gave out beneath her. She sank into the nearest chair, staring at the screen as the reporter continued speaking. They showed luxury offices, massive buildings, and crowds of flashing cameras. Words like fortune, empire, and generosity filled the room. The word billionaire echoed in her mind like thunder. Leo climbed into her lap, confused. "Mama, that's the fries man," he said innocently. Mara could only nod. The man who had watched her child eat in silence. The man who had ordered milkshakes without asking questions. The man who had slipped a folded piece of paper beneath a glass and walked away like it meant nothing. He hadn't just shared his fries. He had changed their lives. Mara pressed her trembling hand to her mouth as a single truth settled heavily in her chest. The man who gave her fries owned half the city. And he had seen her. Really seen her. 3 months later, Mara stood in front of a brand new apartment building with sunlight warming her face and Leo's small hand wrapped tightly in hers. The glass doors gleamed, reflecting a version of herself she barely recognized. Straighter posture, clearer eyes, hope stitched quietly into every breath she took. Above the entrance, silver letters spelled out the name of the housing complex. Below it, a framed notice confirmed what still felt unreal. Their name was on the lease. Rent prepaid for a full year. Utilities included. Job training guaranteed. Leo bounced on his toes, tugging her hand. "Mama, this is our place, right? Like forever." Mara knelt in front of him, brushing his hair back with trembling fingers. "It's our fresh start," she said softly, "and that's even better." Inside, the lobby smelled of fresh paint and new beginnings. A soft hum of quiet happiness filled the space. Families moved through with careful excitement, some carrying boxes, others just standing in disbelief like she was. Then Mara noticed it, a small bronze plaque mounted on the far wall. She stepped closer and read the words engraved into the metal. "For the ones brave enough to ask." Her breath caught. Tears welled in her eyes instantly. She knew exactly who those words were for. Behind her, a familiar voice spoke, warm, gentle, unmistakable. "So how were the fries?" Mara turned slowly. Daniel stood a few steps away, no cameras, no suit jacket, just a quiet smile and the same kind eyes she remembered from the cafe. For a second, the world seemed to pause. Then Leo recognized him. "It's the fries man," he shouted and ran forward. Daniel laughed as he caught him easily, lifting him into the air. "Looks like you're doing better these days," he said. Mara approached, emotion flooding her voice. "You changed everything," she whispered. "You didn't have to." Daniel set Leo down and shook his head. "You didn't ask for money," he said gently. "You asked for food, and that told me everything I needed to know about your strength." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The past hunger, the shames, the fear, it all felt distant now but never forgotten. Mara gestured toward the small cafe across the street from the building. "I don't need to ask this time," she said softly, "but I would like to invite you." Daniel smiled. They walked together not as strangers divided by desperation and wealth, but as two people connected by one brave question. And this time they ordered fries for the whole table.